Shalom and welcome to Ta'alamot Ba'ivrit, Secrets in Hebrew. This week we are in Parshat Ki-Teitzei, which is in the book of Deuteronomy. When you go out is what Ki-Teitzei means. And we're going to take a look at something in Deuteronomy 22. However, I want to start out with not only the importance of this teaching and the essence of the teaching, but actually what we're going to realize is the essence of the entire Torah. What is the Torah summed up in one word? What is the concept of the entire Torah? And we're actually going to establish this right off the bat, and then we're going to teach from it. And if one had to ask me, what does the entire Torah sum up in? It's very simple. It's the word rachamim, compassion. Now, the word rachamim, or compassion, has a gematria of 298. 298 is also equivalent to Bahar Ha-Elohim in Exodus 4:27, in the mountain of God. Now, Bahar Ha-Elohim, in the mountain of God, as we just established, is equivalent to 298, which is equivalent to Rachamim, compassion, or mercy, but compassion is the best translation for this. Now, where is Bahar Ha-Elohim? Where is in the mountain of God? In Exodus 4:27, it was at Sinai, Mount Sinai. This is where the Torah was given. The entire Torah is summed up in compassion. Now, it's very important. You probably hear a lot of this on my channel. You will also see this very deeply in my new book, Joseph's Identity Crisis, Uncovering the Messiah, which will be out here with God's help in the next couple of weeks on Amazon, is that we have to remove the garments of the Torah. The Torah comes with garments, okay, concealing what is actually the real soul of the Torah. And when we look at the real soul of the Torah, when we get very intimate and we see the inner dimensions of the Torah, we realize that the Torah was given to us to not only reveal to us the compassion that God has upon us in connecting with us, but the compassion in ways that we're to connect with people around us, with our brothers and our sisters. This is the essence of the scriptures. This is why we see, even our sages say, what is all the Torah summed up in Tractate Shabbat in the Talmud? And Hillel says, treating people right. The rest is its interpretation, go and study. And what does Yeshua say when he says all of the Torah and the prophets are summed up in what? Doing what is kind to others just as they should do to you. This is the Torah and the prophets. This is what Yeshua says. Okay, and so we have to notice that every single scripture not only points to the Messiah, but it points to how we're to better be in relationships with our spouses, with our children, with our families, with those around us, with our disciples, with our teachers. Okay? And so, if we just look at the letters on the page, the words on the page, and we don't have the Spirit of God bringing the insights and the revelations to the true purpose and meaning of what the Torah is meant to teach us here in this world so that we can prepare it for the Mashiach to come, for the Messiah to come, we're going to miss a lot of jewels, and we can end up walking very religious, where we actually end up isolating ourselves and we don't fulfill the true Torah of the Messiah, as Paul said in Galatians 6:2. And what we're going to see is that the Torah of the Messiah is not something different than the Torah of Moses. It says in the New Testament, I did not come to abolish Torah, to change it. He came to properly interpret it. He came to live it out. He came to show us that Yeshua, he came to show us that he is the living Torah, and to show us how to properly understand it by the Spirit of God. And so in Deuteronomy 22, verse 4, it says, Lo tireh et chamor achicha o shoro noflim baderech. Vahit alamta mehem hakem takim imo. You shall not see the donkey of your brother or his ox falling in the way, and you hide yourself or conceal yourself from them. You shall surely raise with them. So notice how I just said that. It says you shall surely raise with them. A lot of English Bibles may say you shall surely raise them up, but that's not what the text says. The text says hakem takim imo. Imo, im means with. So if I'm to rise imo, that means with him. Okay, now we have to establish something. Notice what it says. You might say, Nick, it says if this is his donkey or his ox. Was the Torah written for the sake of animals or for our sakes? Paul says. Of course, it was written for our sakes. What this is actually talking about is somebody's flock, somebody's sheep, somebody's friend. Whose sheep are these? It's the sheep of the Messiah. And so we're to actually see our brother and his sheep, his flock, his belongings, and the people around us. And if we see anybody falling in the way, it says, you shall surely raise with them. So now we have to stop there and notice what that means. We have to think about everything that the Torah says. It says, you shall surely raise with them. It does not say raise them up. Okay, if it said raise them up, that means I could stay up here while you're falling and I could just pull you out of your problem. That's not what the Torah says. It says you shall raise with them. How can I raise with them if I just raise you up alone? This means I have to go down to your position in order to rise with you. What does this look like? It looks like me coming down into your burden, into your situation, and us coming out together. Otherwise, I'll move too fast and leave you behind, and this is not the Torah, which in my last video, I actually talk about this in the footsteps of Messiah ben Joseph, about this concept. It's actually in my book as well. And so, this is a very important concept that I think many of us miss, is that the Torah is all about connection. It's not a book of just some commandments. That's not what the Torah is. And if we read it as such, we will miss the Torah. We'll miss the true Torah of the Messiah. The Torah is about loving your neighbor. It's about loving God. It's about walking in connection and intimacy with those around me, starting with my spouse, and then with my family, and then with those around us. And if I find myself in a way that's disconnecting and I find myself walking alone, I'm not walking with my brother properly. I'm not walking with my sister properly. I'm not walking with my spouse properly, so on and so forth. So we have to learn how to go down and see the problem or the burden that somebody around us is having, and we have to say, that's my problem now. That's my problem. It's not just yours. We're one in the Messiah. We're the whole house of Israel. If you hurt, I hurt. And so what does this look like practically? Just a couple practical examples, and obviously let the Spirit of God guide you in this. But just some examples is, if you notice that your friend is going through a hard time, this means you calling and checking on them every day. If they're going through something that is extremely difficult and they're just brought down, it means I'm going to make sure I go check on them every day, whether it's in person, whether it's on the phone, whether it's bringing them dinner, whether it's, taking them to and from their counseling sessions, whatever it is. If you notice that your brother is really struggling financially, it's what we do in Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2, 3, and 4, what does it say? They were all of one heart, one mind, one accord. Nobody was of lack. If they saw somebody in lack, they said, hey, we're giving our money to this person because we all need to be walking in a flourishing way with the Messiah. It's not against somebody having excess, but it's against allowing our brother to be in lack and to be in struggle. We take their burden directly upon us. In fact, in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, it says, Paul says, Su ish et masareu, bazot tamalu et Torah tamashiach. Bear the burden of your friend, and therefore you will fulfill the Torah of the Messiah. Notice what it says. You will fulfill the Torah of the Messiah if you bear the burden of your brother. This is exactly what we just read in Deuteronomy chapter 22. And this is all throughout the Torah. We'll see this as we continue here. So we have to learn how to look around us and how to go low in order to bring each other up. We can't just bring each other up because then we're up here, they're down there, and we don't relate to them. In order to have a connection with them, I have to first come down and be on the same level as you. Or they have to come down and be on the same level as me. Otherwise, we can come off, if somebody's up here, this person can come off as self-righteous, or it can come off as condemning, or all of these different things. It might mean that we have to slow down, as Jacob slowed down in the book of Genesis, so that he would not lose a single bit of his flock coming into Israel from Padan Aram. He said to Esau, I can't go as fast as you, because if I do, my flock will die. I have to go very slowly with them. They're nursing upon me. This is why one of the fruits of the Spirit is patience, right? So in order to have compassion, in order to raise up with our brother, not to raise them up, but to raise with them, it means that we have to have their burden upon us. And this is a huge key in the Torah. Notice in the Torah how many times it says, you were gers, therefore you shall love the ger. Or you were sojourners, therefore you shall love the sojourner. Continually it gives this concept of because you did this, or because you know what this is like, therefore you shall do it. Okay, and actually we see it a couple times, and we see it in Deuteronomy chapter 24. It says, Ki eved hayita be'eretz Mitzrayim al kain anochi matzavcha la'asot et hadavar hazeh. It says, you were slaves in the land of Egypt, therefore I've commanded you to do these things. So notice what he says, because you were slaves, or because you were sojourners in the land of Egypt, therefore now you know what it's like. You know what it's like to be a slave or a sojourner, so you shall love the slave and the sojourner. You shall treat them properly. So notice what God is giving an indicator to. He's saying in order to be able to treat someone properly, you first have to walk a mile in their shoes. This is what our sages say in Pirkei Avot. We have to first get into their position. We have to first know what it's like. Otherwise, we as human beings, it's very hard for us to have compassion on something that we do not know what it's like at all. We have no relation to it in any way, shape, or form. So we have to ask the Lord to open our hearts in that moment and allow us to know what it's like. And it might be a process. You may not know what it's like right then, but over the next couple of days, and as you really begin to immerse yourself and watch the pain, watch the struggle, watch the suffering, watch the joy, watch the rejoicing, all these different things, we can begin to have compassion on our brother, and we truly reveal the sensitivity of the Messiah. Okay, so like I said, the Torah, we cannot focus on it just being a bunch of mitzvot, a bunch of commandments to do this, do that. We have to focus on it in a way that teaches us how to reveal the tender love of the Messiah, the long-suffering love of the Messiah. And I know that this is a very sensitive subject. If you've watched my teachings for some time or been a part of our ministry at Revelation Church, you know how much and how heavily I teach on this. It's been a very sensitive subject that God has been revealing so heavily unto me. And I know it's a sensitive subject for people because I have been getting contacted because of my videos on Facebook Messenger and different things in person or through Ahavat Ami, as I teach, with my rabbi, or as he's allowed me to be on there teaching, is people have said I needed to hear that. I'm having separation in my family, or I'm having separation in my marriage. I'm having separation with my Christian brothers and sisters, or my Jewish brothers and sisters, because we don't see eye to eye on this, or maybe I'm here and they're here, or they don't see the Torah the way I do. The Torah has been such an ultimate divider with the people in the body and in the people of God, rather than it being a character pruning in order to show compassion so that we can win them closer. Okay? So, a very good story to understand this concept of what it means to take on the debt, right? To take on someone's burden, is we see in the book of Genesis, chapter 14, in Parshat Lech Lecha, we see Lot actually did Abram wrong. We actually see him wrong him. In the Hebrew, it shows it clearly. We even see Lot go as far as worshiping other gods. We see him leave the entire house of Israel completely. And he actually leaves. And as we know the story, Lot gets kidnapped. And there was a man that was a survivor, and he comes to Abram the Hebrew, as it says in Genesis 14:13. And he says, Lot is taken. So what does Abram do? He gets together 318 men, which 318 is the gematria of Bnei Aharon, the sons of Aaron, which I've shown before, which I show in my book. The sons of Aaron Aaron represents the Messiah. The sons of Aaron represent the disciples of Messiah. So the 318 men, Abram represents the Messiah. The 318 men represent the disciples of the Messiah. It's a direct connection. Shows that we are to follow the Messiah and we're to go chase down Lot. Now, here's the thing. Lot equals 45 in Gematria. 45 is equivalent to Adam. Adam. Adam is the word for mankind. So what it's actually showing is that Abram and the 318 men were going and saving all mankind to restore them back to the house of Israel. Now what's important to notice is where it says, where does the text specifically say that Abram went to redeem his brother Lot? It says that he went to Chovah, or the English Bibles might say Hobah, I think. Chovah. This was where he went to redeem Lot. What does this mean? In Hebrew, it comes from the word chov. It means debt. So we actually see a picture of the gospel. Abraham went all the way to Chovah to redeem Lot, meaning he went and redeemed Lot by taking on his debt in order to free him. And notice who went with him: the disciples of Yeshua, the disciples of Messiah, the 318 men. So what does this show us? Exactly what we see in Deuteronomy 22:4. That we're to go and take the debt of our brothers, spiritual debt, physical debt. This is talking about, shortcomings, spiritual shortcomings, physical shortcomings, financial shortcomings. All of these different things, these shortcomings are debts in essence, to make it practical in our daily life. And we're to take these upon ourselves in order to walk with our brothers and bring people into the house of Israel, to show them the Messiah. And notice what happened. Lot did Abram wrong, and Abram still did it, so it was undeserved completely. So what does this mean? That we're to go and do undeserved acts of kindness to people, even the people that have wronged us. Has your family wronged you? Has your friends wronged you? Has your spouse wronged you? Everybody has wronged the Father, and yet He still sent His only begotten Son. And so this is the essence, is compassion. Compassion means I recognize that you did me wrong, but I still choose to move through love, through undeserved kindness. Okay, this is the essence of what compassion means in the Hebrew. It's a mixture between chesed and gevurah, rachamim. Tiferet is in the middle. It's a mixture of undeserved kindness and love, and restraining of that love, and recognizing you may have done something wrong, but it doesn't matter. I choose to pursue you with the love of the Father. Okay? And so now I want to take a look at Leviticus 26:37, which is actually going to show this in such a powerful way. Exactly what we're speaking on right now. And we're actually going to look at something that seems like a curse, and we're going to see it's a blessing. In Leviticus chapter 26, verse 37, it says, V'chashlu ish ba'achiv kamipnei cherev. It says, and they will stumble, a man with his brother, ba'achiv, with his brother, kamipnei cherev, as before the sword. Some English Bibles say that a man will stumble, over his brother or something along these lines, but the text is very clear. It says that a man will stumble with his brother. They will stumble. It's in the plural. They will stumble. A man with his brother as though before the sword. So notice, and actually our sages talk about, this is what happens when, we're living in sin. We're stumbling over each other and things of this nature. However, I want to show the blessing that's here within the curse. Leviticus 26:37. And they will stumble right here. A man with his brother. As before the sword. This is Leviticus 26:37. Okay? So notice how it looks like it's a curse. They're going to stumble. But this is actually the same concept, the same principle of what we just read in Deuteronomy 22:4. That if you see the animals of your brother falling in the way, you shall surely rise up with them. Meaning you go down to his level, to his burden, and you rise together with. Okay, we have the similar concept here. They will stumble, a man with his brother as before the sword. This entire phrase right here has a gematria of 1110. 1110. If we divide by 5, because if we look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 words. So if we want to find the average value of every word, we divide by 5. And we get 222, which is equivalent to firstborn. It's not, so what it's actually showing is this is about the firstborn. Now, who's the firstborn? Well, the Messiah is the firstborn. We actually see in rabbinic literature, and just on a very obvious context, is that Adam is the firstborn, right? He's the firstborn of all mankind, back in Genesis. Now, our sages tell us that Adam is actually an acronym. Aleph, Dalet, Mem. The Aleph is for Adam. He's the firstborn. The Dalet is for David. Because in Psalm 89:28, it says that David is the firstborn. And then the Mem is for Mashiach, Messiah. In Romans 8:29, it says that Yeshua is the firstborn, that he would be the firstborn of many brethren. So the firstborn is talking about the Messiah. And it's saying that this is the man that's going to come and stumble with his brother. Because of the sins of his brother, he's going to come and stumble. Not only that, if we flip the letters, Bechor, and we have Barech, we just flip the same letters. It means to bless. It's where we get Baruch, like Baruch Atah Adonai. Berech, to kneel, right? It's the same word to bless. So what we're actually seeing is there's a blessing within the curse. Now, as we saw that the average value of each of these words is 222, which is firstborn, let's take it a step further. And how we talked about this being the Messiah. Well, as we said, V'chashlu ish ba'achiv k'mibnei cherev. They will stumble, a man with his brother as before the sword, is equivalent to 1110. What else is equivalent to 1110? Yeshua Mashiach ben David ben Avraham. Yeshua Messiah son of David, son of Abraham. So we actually see that this is a prophecy about the Messiah. As we saw, you divide it by 5, the amount of words. 222, we saw it was about the firstborn, Bechor, it was a blessing. But then 1110, which is equivalent to this verse, is also equivalent to Yeshua the Messiah, the son of David, son of Abraham. Now if we look at Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, it says, Sefer Toldot. These are the book of generations, Sefer Toldot, Yeshua HaMashiach ben David ben Avraham. Now in Matthew 1:1 it says HaMashiach, not Mashiach, but same concept here. Okay? So this is actually a prophecy. It's a blessing within what seems to be a curse. It's a blessing showing that Yeshua, the firstborn, the Messiah, is going to come and stumble with his brothers, with us. And he's going to raise us up with him. And so in order to be Mashiachim, to be like Mashiachs running around, in the image of the Messiah, Yeshua, we're to do what Deuteronomy 22:4 says. We're to go down with our spouses. We're to go down with our brothers. We're to go down with our sisters. We're to go down with our families, with our disciples, with our teachers, with our colleagues, with all these different people around us that may be in a hard time, and we're to go and pick them up. The same way that if we are down, they're to come and they're to pick us up and come with us. This is a very, very important concept in order to understand Torah. In order to bring the Messiah, we have to understand that everything in the Torah is a blessing. Everything is good. Okay? Even the blessings are good. The curses are good. Even though they seem bad, they're all good. Everything is good. And why do I say this? Is because we have to understand in the book of Genesis, in the creation, Genesis chapter 1, verse 4, it says, well, starting in verse 3, it says, Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Then verse 4 says, Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. And God saw the light, that it was good. So what does this mean, that it was good? It says that he saw the light, Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. Genesis 1:4. He saw the light and it was good. Genesis 1:4. He saw the light. Et haor equals 613. 613 is equivalent to the 613 commandments. Notice what happens after Genesis 1:4. Everything was created and formed through the light. The light is the Messiah. But it's also the Torah. The Messiah is the living Torah. Everything was created through the Torah, through the mitzvot, through the commandments. This is why Yeshua says, until heaven and earth pass away, nothing from Torah can pass away, because the heaven and earth was made through the Torah. It was made through the light. He saw the light, which is equivalent to 613, and it says, Ki tov, that it was good. So notice what he's actually saying. All 613 commandments, he says, I see them, they're all good. This is in the beginning. So he sees that the 613 commandments are good. This is including the ones that seem to be curses. This is the ones that seem to be bad commandments. The ones that seem to be things that may not be pleasing to us. Everything is good. Everything is about the Messiah. And so what we have to do, we have to be sanctified by the Spirit of God in order for us to receive the revelation of the hidden depths of the Messiah within the Torah. And we have to be able to see all of Torah as good. We have to be able to see the Messiah and the blessing within every single letter of the Torah. Only then can we properly bring the Messiah here. Because in the beginning, this is what God saw, and things were perfect. So in order to get back to that, we have to see it as that, and we have to walk it out as such. So we have to allow the Spirit of God to cleanse our vessel so that we can receive more light, so that we can receive more revelation, so that we can be able to receive the revelations in the depths of the Torah and the Messiah in a way where we say it is good. All of it is good. All of it is blessing. Okay? So I hope that this is something that we can meditate on together, that we can truly grow and increase in together. Whether you consider yourself in Judaism, in Messianic Judaism, in Christianity, that the whole house of Israel would truly learn what it means to connect with one another. If you find yourself studying Torah and you're disconnecting from those closest to you, from those around you, you find yourself alone in your walk, then we need to reconsider the way we're going about walking Torah. We have to walk in the footsteps of the Messiah. This is the Torah. We have to walk in the Akevot HaMashiach, the very heels, following the heels, the footsteps of the Messiah. And in this, we will bring people together in the house of Israel. We will be unified. We will be of one heart and one mind. And people will long to come closer to the Torah of the Messiah because of the light within us. Shalom and Kol Tuv.